Hi guys, it's Luton here and I'm back for you with some unedited breakdown on the Conquest Gulf of Oman. This is going to be one of my favourite maps to break down. It's been a little while since we've had it. If you want to see some of my previous breakdowns, there's some good ones. Check out my channel, just search for Oman. You should find some good rounds of me talking through. As always, unedited, so you get the good and the bad. You've got to take the rough with the smooth. It's got to be said, the initial air piloting by me, it's not so great. We do have some excellent tanking coming up later on, like real good. We have some excellent tank moments. Now, you can see I start off in the transport heli. Do you know a real sad thing is that I used to love, I'm just changing out from my PS controller right there. See how fast that was? It's so effortless. It's, you know, it's not a big hassle. Anyway, I used to love flying transport. Love it. Like Bad Company 2, everyone was like, let Luton fly, let Luton fly. Because I was all over the transport heli. Now, I get so little time in the transport heli, so little time, and it handles not the same. And, you know, to begin with already, I'm starting to take hits here from these jets. These jets are all over us. And I see right there, piss poor. I just so overcompensated, and I just haven't not had enough airtime in this thing recently. It's bad enough that and again, just like misjudging it. It's like, oh my god, this is a train wreck. Fair play to old Slick 261 here for staying in and repairing me despite the kind of business. Anyway, I'm trying to keep it low on the ground, and I'm trying to avoid these things dropping the flares on a missile. Trying to keep it low towards this building right here. Like take a hit, and then at that point, because I've taken a hit, you obviously start to lose a bit of control. So we're down on the ground. Really unfortunate, but you can see that's what we had. See, going right over me there, attack heli. But luckily, the attack heli goes down by the F-35. So I'm switching back to my Frag FX, and we're good to go. Right, I'm going to make my way to Charlie right here. I got two guys on D already, so I don't need to really assist them. They got it under control. I'm going to start making my way over to C. Now, it's interesting that this is actually one of my favourite Conquest maps. Oh yeah, that's right. I seem to remember that I actually managed to get to C, but evidently not is the case. I should point out as well the title. I was thinking of titles for this round, and I haven't decided yet whether it's going to be like an enjoyable loss or something like this. But this was a perfect example of how I changing back to controller. And look at these bastards. Look at these guys. God damn it, trying to shoot us off the runway here. And I got to tell you, I absolutely hate this kind of action where people are kind of, you know, shooting you off of the ground before you can even get into the air. I generally like to, you know, I like to try and let people get in the air because I just think it's so critically harsh to, you know, prevent that from happening. I think it's really out of order. On the other hand, you know, I mean, the rules of my server are to be sportsmanlike, etc., etc., but I actually got to tell you, I understand sometimes that keeping aircraft suppressed can be tactically important, so I don't consider it entirely to be without, you know, validity. That's the thing. Keeping, for example, okay, there have been games of Rush as well, where, like, for example, okay, two guys as an example, Kaius and Jizzler, okay, bloody really good players, and you know they regularly play on my server. If you get those guys in a helicopter, Kaius in a helicopter, he can be unstoppable, okay? And getting him in the air can be incredibly difficult to the point of impossible to actually take him down because he's that good of a pilot. So, you know, within those, you know, you're limited in your options when you have players like that as to what you can actually do. And, you know, for those reasons, that's why I consider shooting planes and stuff off of the runway to actually be a kind of slightly valid tactic, because you're just sort of saying, look, you know, you're trying to make the best of a bad job, and if you're not a good enough pilot to take someone down in the air, you're having to find other options. Now you can see this heli gets from the air. To be honest, I wasn't particularly, you guys, I was moving around the sort of battlefield there. I didn't particularly have any major intention to kind of come back on him. But at the same time, you remember that when we were originally flying in with the Venom, and obviously the attack helicopter took us down. Now you can see I'm down on 8% here, and I get taken out. I was hoping that I was going to be able to just do a real fast drop, put it on the deck, and get a quick repair. This guy comes in and finishes off. But yeah, as I say, you know, I think maintaining and keeping your helicopter sort of attack and enemy suppressed it's an important valid tactic, especially on Conquest where they can really cause you some goddamn real damage. So I'm trying to stay support here in the heli. I'm going to hit the ground, try and deal with these guys. This guy coming in right here, and we're down with the M320. Now, talking about Oman, the reason I really enjoy this map, you would think, wouldn't you, that I wouldn't be a big fan of this for all that I talk about hating large maps, because I often mention the fact that on the consoles it's irritating as hell on the large maps, and that you never find any contact, and it's too big to move around, you don't have enough players to spread out, etc, etc. So you would think for that reason that this would kind of go into those groups, because Oman's a pretty big map. Oman is a perfect example of how maps can actually be designed well despite being large. So more than anything else, some of the maps that we have on the larger maps that we have, it's not so. I mean, look at this. See, we've got lots of nice buildings, lots of roadways, and so it enables you to have these kind of skirmish fights at each objective area, and that's the difference. You see, some of the other maps with the large open areas, thinking of Bandar Desert, thinking of Sabalalan Pipeline, thinking of Keosar Railroad. Yeah, these maps have structures on them, but they don't have the same built-up structure support that Oman has. If you look at it, we have this whole sort of district town area right here. We have the city at C. There's the construction area over at D. There's the kind of whatever it's called on B, I should know because it was voted for, but I always forget. And then of course we've got A down here, the kind of sort of little scout support base. We'll find out what it's called when I get here. Nobody ever knows their goddamn names. I always forget. Olive Fort, okay. So every area has its own little kind of skirmish points, and also the kind of the transitional areas between, for example, A to D and C. That's a real nice fast roadway there, and again A to B, you've got those areas, plus the fact you've got the whole coming in from the sea, so the guys on the aircraft carrier can see the objectives right here, just fly straight in. It's an incredibly well designed map, and it's just one of my favourites all around. Some of the best games we have ever played on Battlefield are on this map. And also this goes a long way towards my explanation of naming this sort of map, this gameplay today, about an enjoyable loss or an entertaining loss or something like this. And it really goes to the core of what Battlefield is about for me. I have said this before, is I would rather have a kind of hard fought entertaining loss than I would a total domination steamroll win. Often in those situations they can be incredibly boring games because people often get so disillusioned that they feel they can't get anywhere. They end up all just camping one base, or they sit back in the spawn and all start sniping. I mean, how many times have you played a game on, for example, Rush Metro, where on the first base they try to make a few initial pushes and then they really just get cut to pieces, so they feel like, oh, this is pointless, I'm just going to sit back and snipe. And then the game takes about 20 times longer than it should. Nobody really gets any kind of enjoyable gameplay, and at the end of the round everybody leaves because it's such a boring round that everyone's like, oh my god, this server's dead now because the players are so imbalanced. It's not entertaining for anyone. And this is why it's important to have admins who can identify problem players as well. People that aren't entering into the spirit of things, people that are causing unnecessary problems for everybody else. It's not just about having bad players who are not sort of, up to par. Alright, because sometimes that can be the case as well. Like you have sort of maybe 4 or 5 guys in one team who are all going extremely negative. I mean, like sort of 216 or whatever. They're a huge weight on the team, and in that situation, often what I'll do is I'll try and move maybe like 1 or 2 people. So you don't move all the bad players. You move like 1 or 2 to try and help balance things out. That's the difference as well. The other thing is, it's really funny. Okay, I often on my server, if I have to remove a player who's being, as I say, like difficult, problematic, or I don't know, just my only kind of, as I've said, like main sort of parameters for my my server about sportsmanship. If somebody is really not playing in the spirit of sportsmanship, if they're being, very, what would be the best way to really explain it? Kind of ultra camping, just being very, very unfair to players, just literally cutting them down in a box, and they can't even move. Pushing so hard to push them right back to their base, etc, etc, things like that. The funny thing is, sometimes these players will be on the side that I am playing on. They'll be on my team, and the funny thing is, Okay, another good example was, oh, by the way, this is the good tank gameplay. Look, I've been really enjoying the LMG on the tanks lately. I've been using it a ton, and it's so good. It's so versatile because you've got so many different engagements that you can use it in. By the way, the helicopter here was screwing the hell out of us. That's what's trying to, I haven't got enough height to be able to get on this damn thing. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sort of accelerate around and turn at the same time, which is not easy to do. Tank doesn't exactly turn our thing. Right, putting some fire on this guy, and with some assistance from our team, this guy's going down. Unfortunately, I'm down on 50% as well, but I'm getting some good repairs. So there we go. But yeah, the LMG is a great tool. Been using it more and more. Interested to hear from you guys whether you prefer the LMG or the HMG. Obviously, the heavy machine gun on the tank has got a slightly slower fire rate, but does a bit more damage. But I'm interested to hear those things. Personally, I generally find that the LMG is sort of overall favourable for me. I've found it perform slightly better in a wider variety of situations. But anyway, getting back onto the whole sort of server management thing, it's interesting, as I say, that often when I end up having to remove people, I often notice it more because they're on my team. And I say a good example of this was we were playing Rush Riverside, and at the beginning, the first base, we hadn't even had any gameplay. So it's not like we tried to make an attack and failed a couple of times and they sort of decided, oh, you know, this game's a bit hard, we're going to sit back. This was like from the outset, from the word go, right at the very beginning of the round, 4 snipers. That's a third of our team, 4 snipers. And they were just sitting on the hilltop. And I was like, you're playing attacking Rush. You haven't even engaged a single enemy, and a third of our team have rolled sniper. What the F is that? And so I literally was like, screw this, get them out of the goddamn server. 2 guys out there. I decided to leave 2 because I just randomly decided to remove 2 guys, got them out of there. Now the thing is, it's interesting. People go, oh, Luton, you know, never. I get PSN messages. Obviously, people don't like to be removed from servers. I got to tell you as well. Quite often what I hear is that when people play on random public servers, if they, for example, use the wrong weapon, like if they say no shotguns and they use a shotgun, they don't just get kicked, they get immediately banned. Well, I don't do that. I will kick a player, just kick them to sort of make them aware that they're perhaps doing something wrong. And I often will also send a follow-up PSN message to say, look, you're not doing this, or what, and, you know, so give them a chance. But you know, if they persist, or if they're, for example, just constant trolling, etc., then that's a ban. But I have to say, my ban list for my server is few. I think it's about 8 people. It's very low. But anyway, so yes, removing people from my own team, it tends to be more. I do that more. It's not particularly often that I remove people from the enemy team. It's much more. It's only if I really perceive it's a problem, etc. But anyway. It's funny though, because as I say, when people kind of I remove people from my own team or whatever for whatever reason, and they often say, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be a badman, Luton." Blah blah blah. And it's like, dude, you even understand what that means? Like, how is removing a player from my own team a badman? It's like, if that player was doing so good, why, you know, like, it doesn't even make sense, does it? Like, if they're such an amazing player, or they're giving so much benefit to my team, why would I remove them? And why would, do you see? It just doesn't make sense. And the thing is, people can call me whatever they want, alright? They really can. I don't give a crap. I know that I'm a fair player when it comes to these things. I know my own judgment when it comes to these things. And for the most part, the majority of players will come to my server and support me for that. And also, I'm not trying to hide it, you know? I'm not trying to hide it. I'm telling you exactly how I call it, exactly how I play it in the game. And I say, if people don't like it, they can just suck it up, seriously, because you know, the way I balance my teams, the way when I'm on the server, the way that I encourage the gameplay to go, we have some of the best games you'll have in Battlefield. Now, I've got to tell you, lately it's been a rather big problem for me, and I'm seriously not considering renewing my server because of the way that people are playing, and it comes in with this, you know, this is what server management is all about. And unfortunately, a lot of people have sort of stopped playing the game so aggressively. And this evening, this gameplay that this is from, this was my sort of evening of contention, my evening of sort of trying to decide whether I would renew my server and whether I'd even continue to play with Battlefield. Now, I've got to say, about 60 to 70% of the games we played that evening were actually kind of like this. They were quite objective, people were playing the objective, and it really did restore my faith. So I think I'm going to roll another month. I mean, it's not far away from Battlefield 4 anyway, so I'm going to roll on and we'll see how we go. But the main problem with my server is just people being on it. People tend to get on my server when I'm on and at no other time, which is very frustrating, but I have been talking to some of the guys that play on my server regularly. If I say I'm on, they'll come on. So I've been saying to them, look guys, try and use the server other times. The same people will join the server, the same people. My server at one point was, it really was very, very strong, very full every single day. And I say, again, I'm not lying, it's been less so. And I'm trying to encourage people to play on it more, because when people do play on it, they have some very, very good games. For a couple of reasons. One, I don't restrict any weapons or play styles for the most part. I say obviously in really specific situations I have to make judgments based off of that. But for the most part I don't restrict weapons or anything like that, so people can play pretty much how they want. This encourages the kind of better, more strong gameplay styles. We also, as I say, try to actively balance people, so when I'm in game I sort of try and look at the teams, but at the same time you can't just remove people or move people around every single time you have a loss. You have to look at each game, and sometimes you have to let a couple of games play out before you make a decision. But I've got to tell you, for the most part, I really do feel pretty happy generally with how we sort of admin on the server. You have to try and make choices that you can, and it's for the enjoyment of everyone. You're trying to basically maintain a quality balance of team play, and that is what it's all about. Again, as I say, people are going to disagree with me. People who I've maybe removed from games feel they've been unjustly treated. I'm sorry, at the end of the day, they're just going to have to suck it up, because I know, and I know my heart, and people who really actually know me as a player and a person will know that I am not an unfair person. I'm a fair person, and my only interest is to maintain the kind of balance and general play enjoyment of the server. Now, let's get back into the game now. It's enough talk about balancing team play, blah blah blah. This is a great time to come back into the game. If we look, 177, 176, 2 bases apiece, well, kind of 2 bases apiece, and you can see that we're just holding our own, each team sort of fighting. This is a kind of critical moment right about now where things start to unravel. Now, what we kind of seen so far, you can see we're kind of holding this base here. It's just me actually in the tank. I'm solo. I've got no engineer support whatsoever. Now I do, apparently. And we're taking a beating yet again. Goddamn attack heli, you can see right here coming in. Our guy's trying to get on him, but I'm down 52. We're just taking a huge beating. Now C and D capping. We got A down on 8%. I'm not getting out of here. There's no way I'm giving up any tank to the enemy. I try more often than not now to stay in vehicles for a couple of reasons. One reason is that I always feel it's very frustrating when people don't get a kill from a vehicle, so I actually try to give people kills from vehicles, because I feel it's unfair. Sometimes aircraft is the worst for that, when you bail out of aircraft. So generally if I'm in aircraft I won't bail out unless I think it's absolutely critical to save myself. And as I say, tanks can be the same, but tanks is much more to do with sort of stopping giving away the vehicle to the enemy. We all know it's very, very frustrating when you jump out and another guy jumps in and they drive away. So for the most part I try to just sort of stay in and go down with the ship, as it were. But anyway, look at this. Just in the very, very short time I've been talking here, we have dropped 10, 20 points, basically. We've dropped 20 points down, which is quite a bit. And it's not good for us to be in that kind of situation that quickly, trying to get a lock on this goddamn attack helicopter, because he's seriously got to go down. He's causing so much damage to us. Didn't seem to get hit there though. He's obviously flared it away. Now, an important point here was that you remember that we were in that tank for ages, and again, look, they've stolen our tank off of A. And they're really, look, we're losing all bases right here. Now, even though I've got heavy armor all around me, and we've dropped the goddamn transport heli for something, I needed to get out of here, because look, we're entering into a spawn trap situation. My immediate priority here was to prevent a spawn trap situation in order for us to save game at all. Because let's not forget, these guys were trying to kind of shoot us off the aircraft carrier before, and I was fearing and thinking, Christ, if they take A here and we end up on the carrier, we're just going to get trapped and we're never going to get anywhere. So look, pulling in here. Some mines on the road there, one friendly but others maybe not, so capping D. So why have I come here with no support really? Well, I've got a couple of guys, but the main thing is that, you know, I just need to be a distraction, pull them off that front line so that some of our other guys, I said, okay, you guys stay on D right here, and they're holding that. I'm moving back to C because I need to, again, try and destabilize, try and pull them off of those front lines because they've obviously pushed down to B and A. I'm pulling back here. And again, if I manage to cap, or my team manage to cap these bases, that's great, but it's not the priority, it's not the major objective of what you're doing. You're really trying to just create a distraction to give the rest of your team some breathing space. That is the main objective here. Oh dear, I don't have an RPG. But oh god, I hate that situation. And hey look, we're capping C, alright, so my guy's on it. I'm running after this LAV here to see if there's any infantry jumping out, but then I change my mind because I see these guys coming back on here. And we nearly managed to cap C, but unfortunately, look, see, they've started to reinforce. But you see, this is exactly what I wanted, and now look what's happening. We are retaking A and B. So the kind of tactic there to give my team a little bit of breathing space has worked. You know, there we go, we've secured 2 bases, and C is still destabilized. So we're 50-60 tickets down now, we're 60 tickets down, but at least we have managed to hold on to the game and prevent a spawn trap situation. And you see, this is what I was talking about when I say it's an entertaining loss. It's like, okay, we're not really dominating, we're on the back foot, we're losing, but at least we're still in the game, you know, we haven't given up, we haven't just totally failed and ended up back on the carrier. And that situation only a couple of minutes ago, that was a game breaker right there. Alright, if we had not managed to maintain D and sort of push onto C, that was a situation where we could have potentially lost. But another real problem with this round was simply my team not being aggressive enough. And I'm not sort of blaming the whole, you know, I'm not sort of saying, oh, we all sucked. We didn't suck, you know, it's not like I'm not saying like everybody is just like the worst player or anything like that. All I'm saying is that, you know, if we wanted to succeed against the team we're playing against, we should have basically had a little bit more aggressive tactics, that's all. People should have just pushed a little bit more, because for example, the time when I was running that tank, we were running that tank for ages and we were really hurting the enemy team. We were hurting them bad, you know, we were really keeping them down on B. They were throwing a lot of enemy attack on B at that point. And in the tank, we were really hurting them. You know, we were thrashing them and they were trying hard to take us down. That time when we were distracting them with that tank for quite a long time, and I say really taking them down, that would have been a perfect time for our guys in the team to push up to, for example, over to D or C, something like that. They could have flanked across the desert. I was trying my very best to get away from that goddamn LAV, but unfortunately, it was just not enough. An alchemist here in the flanker takes us down. What a good kill that was. And that actually brings me back to another point that we talked about in this game. When we was in this game, I was talking on team chat to the guys, and we actually brought up something which was kind of funny. I was talking, again, it goes back to, you know, kicking some people from the game, and it's all about teabagging. People have started really teabagging me in games at the moment, and it's just flat out disrespectful. It pisses me off, and people are going to say, oh well, now people are going to do it more. If they want to get kicked out of my server, then, you know, have at it. But basically, here's the rationale. When I play Battlefield, I tend to have already worked all day long. Alright, my main job that I work is a graphic designer, so I go to work all day long, pretty tired. I come home and either do other things or edit, or I have my own time, etc. So I have a few hours to do that. Then I'll get on Battlefield, and I often only have a couple of hours to do that, and out of the week I maybe only play for 2-3 days out of the week, so my time on Battlefield is very limited, and when I do get on, I'm often pretty tired, so I'm not always in the best frame of mind when I'm playing, because I'm often, as I say, quite tired, I'm a bit grumpy, I'm a bit like, ugh, come on. And then people get these boring, mundane kills. They're like some guy who'll just come up behind me and shoot me in the back. Or what would be a case, I don't know, he throws a grenade and he gets like a lucky kill on me or something like that, or just a flat out firefight, you know, and maybe he just like beats me to like 5% extra health takedown or something like that, you know, he finishes on 5%, and then he's like teabagging me, and it's like, why are you doing that, dude? You didn't even get a good kill, you just got a boring, mundane kill. There's nothing to be proud of or gloat about there. Look at this guy right here, see, perfect situation. Totally boring, mundane. It's kind of hilarious that whilst I was talking about that, just out of total coincidence, it happens. I've got to say, I didn't. This game, I was feeling quite pleased in this game, because I say, even though we're losing, I felt like everybody was sort of, you know, fighting pretty hard. So I didn't do anything about that in this situation. But other situations we've been in games where I've just felt it was so unwarranted. And as I say, I don't really have any rules for my server, okay, I don't. My only rule is to play, well, two things, objective and play in the spirit of sportsmanship. And I don't consider constant teabagging of some guy who you know is the server owner and you know is, you know, me. I'm trying to sort of, you know, my principles, which a lot of people do, about sort of what I want the server to be. It's just flat out disrespect, and it really pisses me off. As I say, on top of the fact that I'm often quite tired, etc, etc. So for that reason, my kind of one moment, you know, if you teabag me on the server, you're gone, you're out. However, there are some exceptions, and I was saying this to a couple of guys that I regularly play with. I said, like, I don't mind it if you get a kill that's worthwhile, you know? And look, here's this guy again. Look, he was all gloating a moment ago, and now look, put him down again. I've got to say as well, I know that Golm guy, he commented on one of my videos earlier today saying he loved playing with me. So I'm not going to be too harsh, Golm, you know, no hard feelings, my friend. But, you know, I'm just sort of using it as a general point of view. But yes, so basically it is my kind of thing at the moment. I kind of, for ages and ages, I just tolerated it, and now I kind of drawn a line and I'm just like, no, that's it, you know, you've been playing this deal, I'm not having this anymore, it's bullshit, so no. And even a couple of the guys, this is not about just random players either, there's a couple of guys that I play with regularly who I consider to be my in-game friends, and I've said to them as well, look, just no. Okay, sick of it. It's bullshit, you know. It's so childish, for Christ's sake. I won't even name names, but there's so many kind of personalities on YouTube that I can think of that advocate and encourage this kind of behaviour. It's just sad and childish. Perfect example right here of how you're going for a clever kill just fails. What should have happened is I should have just piled on, but instead Aid up here got a good clean shot on me from above, so it just proves yet again, trying to be a smart ass, it just generally makes you fail. But yeah, so back to the teabag thing. But as I say, there's a couple of exceptions for this. One of which is, like I say, if you get an epic kill. If you get an epic kill on me, go for it, my god. You know, like, yeah, humiliate me, because you got a really awesome kill, and I'm fine with that. Like, if you snipe me across the map or something, then yeah, awesome, you got a great kill. If you jump off a building 3 stories up and knife me as you land on the ground, yeah, teabag away, teabag me all day. But if you've just literally come up behind me and shot me in the back, or, you know, you've just literally come around a corner and shot me, and it's a totally ordinary kill, no. You have nothing to be proud about. You have nothing. So, no. But, you know, so that's my kind of rationale there. Again, people might disagree with me. Gotta tell you, don't really care. So, sorry about that small there, Xavier. Xavier I play with. He was not too pleased about that. Because I think he was like, I was behind cover. How do Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway. The other thing is, as I say, is my kind of principles in game, you know, I try to respect other people in the game, you know, I try not to gloat, I try to sort of be like, okay, good game, good game. Even, like I say, this is the thing is, there's something I do which not many other people that I speak to in FPS games seem to do, and I think it's maybe coming from World of Warcraft more than anything else, is that if I'm against a team and they really do well or they make some good plays, I will say, you know, good job, you know, well done, good, or, you know, I tell you what's a really good example of this is often when we come out of a game of Battlefield and we're in like the lobby and everybody's going, oh man, that team, they were such bastards, oh, they did this, there was this cheap tactic, that cheap tactic, or you know, they said like, oh, we lost because they did this, or we lost because they did that. I'm like, no, we didn't, right? We lost because we screwed up and because they had their game. That's why we lost. And then everyone's like, oh, no. And it's like, no, you know, admit it, right? This is something that people really suck at in, maybe not FPS, maybe gaming in general actually, is admitting their errors, okay? In fact, I think this could be a whole video for me, is like, you know, the first step to getting better at gaming, FPS gaming, is admitting to yourself when you do things wrong. And this kind of, again, you know, it's funny how all these things kind of connect together. It goes hand in hand with cheap tactics and teabagging. It's that mentality. It's that mentality of I'm better than you. And it's like, you're not. You just had like a lucky situation there. You're not better. You're not better than anybody. You're just a regular player and you just you happen to have a moment, okay? And I when I'm in game, this is what people always say, like, oh, Luton, you suck at the game, blah, blah, blah. Or they say, oh, people go, oh, you're amazing, you've done this, you've done that. I'm not amazing. I'm just a completely normal Battlefield player. And I have moments which are unbelievably awesome. I have moments which are complete failures. I have moments which are tactically awesome. I have moments where I forget what I'm doing and I screw up because I've been distracted by something else. Everybody who plays this game, they're just human. They're just normal people. Some people have better skills at certain things. Some people are great pilots. Some people are great tankers. Some people are great gunsmiths. Some people are great snipers. Everybody has their, some people are good tacticians. I would consider myself to be a pretty good tactician. That's one of my main skills, and it's something that I've learned over time from the different games that I've played. So everybody has their kind of strong suit, but it's wrong to kind of just immediately deride and mock other people for things that you don't really understand, because and this is why I hate trolling culture, and it's why I hate kind of abuse of other players, and it's why I hate disrespect. And this kind of plays out into real life too. I hate people that judge so fast. I hate it when people, I've always used this great example, which is road rage. This is my favourite example of how people judge too quickly and they don't really think of others, is road rage. The reason is, let's say you're driving along, and there's some guy going really slow in front of you, and people immediately get angry. Why is this guy going to, oh, idiot, blah, 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 blah. Start slowing abuse, just because he's going a little bit slower than you in his car. Now let's just think about it. You don't know his situation. You don't know, he could be hurting. Maybe he's like lives alone, and he's like feeling really bad, and he's trying to get to hospital. You don't know his personal situation. Maybe he's got something very fragile in the car, and that's why he's driving slow. You don't know. Maybe his car's not working very well. You don't know, and yet people get angry straight away. And it's this kind of general disrespect. And as I say, that bleeds into the way that people kind of play in games. It's that same kind of mentality of like, I'm better than you, blah, blah, blah. Or the trolling thing, they're humiliating people. And it's like, you don't know anything about that player. You don't know their gameplay background, you don't know their history, you don't know how long they've been playing, you don't know what they've achieved, you don't know what their strong suit is. Maybe they just decided to change up and use a class or something that they've not used before. You don't know anything about that person. You don't know, maybe they're feeling ill that day. Maybe they're just like feeling really sick and they thought, oh man, I feel rough, but maybe I'll just play a bit of Battlefield to enjoy, and their game is not on. And so that for me is another reason why I super hate this whole attitude. I've never had that attitude of wanting to kind of humiliate others. I just find it kind of cheap. I find it cheap, and I think it cheapens you as a person. I think it cheapens the way that other people should view you. Like if I find someone or I know someone who regularly behaves like that, I don't like them. I don't think they're cool. I think they're a dick, and I don't want to play with them or be associated with them. So that's my whole rationale. Anyway, Oman, great game, loved it, loved that gameplay, loved that map. I hope you enjoyed, hope you think quite a few questions. Didn't really sort of this conversation go the kind of way I expected it actually, but I feel kind of great. Promoted! I promoted! 51! Promotion! See you next time guys, more Battlefield discussion. Rate and share!